flag bearer of the main opposition, National Democratic Congress, the NDC, today took the party's case against the implementation of a proposal to hold this year's general election in November instead of the December 7th to the leadership of the Christian community. The Electoral Commission has been pushing for the implementation of the proposal and is set to begin the process towards amending the constitution so the new date will be applied to this year's general elections. John Mahama maintains it is too late to implement the proposal this year. Well, the Commission is standing its ground despite NDC's protest, declaring it will not change its position because they are determined that the proposal is in the national interest. It's just been a few days since they returned to the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, IPAC, after months of boycott due to the strong disagreement with the EC. The latest controversy is already threatening to further strain the relationship. We'll hear from the EC shortly, but first listen to John Mahama addressing the leadership of the Christian community in Koforidua as part of the Building the Ghana tour.
In the meeting, the clergy had the opportunity to make input into the NDC manifesto. Aside from the policy proposals, the call for a peaceful election came up strongly. The flag bearer of the NDC is concerned with the potential of chaos in the election. He made reference to election violence at Ayawaso West Wogon and deaths recorded in the 2020 general elections.
And now, Menoka say, the 5th anniversary of Ayawaso West Wogon. Mokai Nisi Abra ye by election.
Today marks the 5th anniversary of the disturbances at Ayawaso West Wogon on his sick bed. In 2020, 8 people died because of electoral violence. There have not been any investigation into the incidents. Families haven't been compensated as well.
Last year, 2020, Ghana for 8 in a year. Your investigation, you compensate your families, nothing. In your canon, it's a reality.
Mr. Mahama believes reformation of the electoral processes should have been proposed earlier. He observed the Electoral Commission has turned deaf ears to the complaints of the NDC.
Elections are a very emotive event. There are many emotive things. They say ethnicity. And it's money since year 2 about 2020. Aka beye bosom 9 months. Near 2 about for 4. You are now coming with major changes. You find indelible income, but say. Sana, you don't build the confidence of the people in the electoral process. And I think so, and you may be brave, you're complaining, and so be in fear. You're saying IPAC based on, say, Peace Council near Becca sign near there. You're saying IPAC. Now you're cutting us, and they are waiting. Say, person shift the election date, and changes be person they want to bring a new CI to change the old CI. And can they say, why wait till now? You don't spring surprises on people like that. What I say? Anka from last year, names changes. Anka someone engaging. You don't wait till 9 months to an election. Now more best spring surprises. It will affect all of us.
Well, the Commission says it will not change its decision just because a political party is unhappy. Now, the deputy director in charge of operations has been speaking to my colleague, Blessed Soga.
On what transpired yesterday, more of the political parties were supportive of the change of the date from December to November. Looking at our calendar, we are pretty sure that we'll be able to do everything.
The largest opposition party, the National Democratic Congress, says it is not aligned to this proposal. If successful, it will mean that indeed the EC will go ahead to hold the elections on November 7. Are you mindful of the concerns that the NDC has, and what reactions do you have to their concerns?
The NDC expressed support that for this year, they are not ready for it, but for 2028, they are ready for that. The EC hasn't stated that by hook or crook we are going to do it in 2028. 2024. That's not what we've said.
Yeah, but you've given us a condition, and the condition is that if you're able to go through all the processes early enough, then we might implement that this year.
Yes.
I'm saying that the NDC says, be it as it may, you cannot do that change this year.
I don't think you are trying to say if NDC says we cannot do it means we cannot do it. Is that what you are trying to say?
Is that what you're suggesting as well? Because that's the largest opposition party, sir.
Oh, but Mr. Soga, all the parties, we have the NPP, the NDC. There have been several instances where they've said no to something. And if the EC strongly believes that that thing is in the national interest to advance the cause of the country's democracy, we don't say because MPP has said this or NDC has said this, we are not going to do it. Because don't forget, the EC gave a reason. And one of the main reason we gave was that in the event there's a runoff, it puts so much pressure on us because you have only within 21 days to be able to execute the runoff. So we would wish some additional days being given to us.
And I just want to read a quote from Dr. Omani Boama, the Director of Elections for the NDC. He says that why wait for January to be ending without stakeholders having the electoral calendar for 2024 elections? And why did the EC not introduce these discussions in 2017, 2018, 2019, and why not even after the 2020 elections?
We explained all this at IPAC. We said some of the things internally we've been working on them. So for us, based on the nature of our work, the information available to us, the efficacy of our equipment, we are pretty sure that if we start in January, we will be able to complete it, have the elections in November.
And one more thing, I thought that would have been the final one. The reforms you're introducing ahead of the general elections. One has got to do with the reversal of the indelible ink. The public is still asking questions as to what may happen in the main elections. You reverse that for the district level elections, but for the parliamentary and presidential system, concerns arise about maintaining electoral integrity. Are you mindful of that, even as you contemplate reversing this policy? And what's your final stance on the use of the indelible ink?
No, the EC hasn't said that we are not going to use indelible ink in the 2024 election. We haven't made that point anyway. What we explained was that when you look at the biometric technology, if people go through that verification process and at the same time you try to apply the ink on them, clearly it amounts to duplicity. Because the verification system basically says that this is Blessing Soga who has come to vote. After he has gone through the process, why do you still want to apply another system or the indelible ink so that it sends another signal that the same Blessing Soga has come? So that was the explanation we gave.
Now, the subject of whether or not to hold this year's election in November was top on the agenda of an IPAC meeting on Monday. The EC had reported that majority of the parties in the meeting agreed to hold the elections early. We know the position of the NDC. What about the governing New Patriotic Party? We've been joined on the line by Henry Nana Boakye, who is the national organizer of the party, and also joining us is Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mustapha Gbande. Let me start with you, Henry Nana Boakye. Was the consensus on the subject that it should be held in November? Henry Nana Boakye, I want to start from you. So I want to find out from you what the consensus was on the subject that the election should be held in November.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. So from the MPP, our position is that, first of all, the Electoral Commission should be able to present to the entire nations and, for that matter, the political parties. We are major stakeholder in this whole business. They should be able to present to us their calendar, their schedule, their plan for the entire year. This is an election year, and every political party is actively planning around the schedule that we presented to us. So that is very important. And the IPAC, they promised that in some few days is going to come up. Now, this issue or this proposal being tabled by the Electoral Commission to change the date from December to November, for us, the rationale behind it is quite good. In fact, in 2016, similar proposals were put before us. We were okay with it. The only challenge we raised at that time was the timing. It was 5 months to the elections. if you decide to go through such proposals, it will also go through a certain process. You would have to go to Parliament, to have to be in Parliament for quite some time before you can change the date. So our position then was that because of the time, it cannot be done. But now I think that we have 11 clear months before the elections. So if they start, they can do it. I have a challenge with the NDC and the reasons they give. It appears that they are shifting from the main reason, and they are saying that the EC should rather focus on their core mandate, which is to deliver free, fair, credible elections. But that is what they've been doing all this time. And then they try to say that there have been challenges with the district assembly elections. We've had some challenges in the past. In fact, every electioneering system in Ghana, you come up and then you realize that there are some challenges. But the fact is that we have to move on. So the fact that we have had some challenge in a particular electoral cycle means that we cannot move forward with such proposals. I think, for me, that is not the point. And
so it means that there was no consensus on the subject.
No. I mean, majority of the political parties, they are okay with the fact that the EC can change. Majority. And I'm surprised when the NDC says that it is not true. I'm surprised. In fact, I think even this evening, you spoke to a rep from Kodeye who was also there. And then he also mentioned, he confirmed that, yes, indeed, majority of the people in the room were for the fact that the date can be changed. As to whether it can be done earlier for us to use it for this year's election was another matter.
Now, let me bring in Mustapha Gbande, who is Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. Mustapha, why is your party afraid that, 11 or so months to election is not enough a time for us to talk about a change in the day?
And good evening to our listeners. Good evening to my brother Nanabi. The NDC cannot be afraid of an election with a very incompetent government, a government that have lost track. The only reason that they gave in 2016 is probably the same reason that we are given today. If their reason was cogent enough to make some sense in 2016, we are raising the same issues today, and the MPP want us to believe that our issues are not cogent enough. We are simply saying that the Electoral Commission in the last few years have been overwhelmed by issues of not being able to give a credible election. In fact, the recent assembly election is a testament of EC's failure, and those challenges were managerial. We all agree that they were operational. In fact, the recent last week MPP election in Yendi was a clear testimony of EC's inability to produce a credible election. And Anabi will disagree, but I will say that why didn't they allow that to go? Now, we think that the issue of transition is not a mandate of the Electoral Commission. We've had elections in this country since 1992. We've had runoffs. We've had elections without runoffs. Various commissioners have been able to deliver. We are going into a very interest-centered election.
But
10 to 11 months
Mustapha,
within the calendar.
10 to 11 months. What was your position in 2016 when that proposal came up? Has that changed?
Well, I want to believe that that proposal was tabled by the Electoral Commission when we were in government. And the MPP had an objection to that arrangement. And so it didn't work. Today, the situation in 2016 is not the same as we have today. We are dealing with a commission that has not been able to deliver a single credible election. And that all political parties believe that, yes, we are up for reforms which are very important for our democracy and our electioneering process. But of course, because we are already within the election year, we use CI 127 to do our limited registration. We use CI 127 to do the disassembly election. Any change will lead to inconsistencies, and for that matter, it will be chaotic. And for that matter, we as political parties and stakeholders should rather help the Electoral Commission to foster relationship that can build and lead to delivering a transparent, credible, free and fair election.
Elections. Okay, I'm grateful
An election that will ensure that when the ordinary Ghanaian
I think your point is well made, Mustapha, and all of you. So it means that there's no consensus in this on the subject of changing the voting day from the 7th December to any other day in November. But this is an interesting one that we'll be keeping an eye on. This is still the Joy News Prime. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more Tuesday.